In the dimly lit halls of an ancient royal court, shadows danced to the rhythm of whispered secrets and the faint hum of forbidden knowledge. Here, kings and queens didn't just rule with crowns and scepters. They wielded something far more elusive, the power of magic and alchemy. These mystical forces weren't mere superstitions. They were the unseen hands guiding empires, shaping destinies, and guarding secrets so profound that even history struggles to unveil them. What were these secrets, and why were they so fiercely protected? Today, we're stepping into a world where power meets the supernatural, where alchemists brewed elixirs of immortality and court magicians whispered prophecies into the ears of rulers. Together, we'll uncover the hidden stories of how magic and alchemy influenced the decisions that changed the course of history. From enchanted artifacts to cryptic rituals, this is a journey into the heart of royal intrigue, a world where the line between reality and legend blurs. Are you ready to explore the mysteries that once shaped the lives of kings and queens? Let's begin. Long before the grand castles of medieval Europe or the sprawling courts of imperial China, the seeds of mystical practices were sown in the fertile crescent of Mesopotamia and along the banks of the Nile. Here, in the cradle of civilization, magic and alchemy weren't just curiosities, they were essential tools of power. Kings and pharaohs didn't merely rule by decree, they sought the favor of the gods and the wisdom of the unseen. In ancient Mesopotamia, rulers like Hammurabi consulted court magicians and diviners to interpret omens and guide their decisions. These advisors weren't mere entertainers, they were the bridge between the mortal world and the divine, interpreting the will of the gods through the flight of birds, the patterns of smoke, or the entrails of sacrificial animals. In Egypt, alchemy took on a different but equally profound role. The quest for immortality drove pharaohs to surround themselves with alchemists who sought to unlock the secrets of eternal life. The famous emerald tablet, attributed to the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, became a cornerstone of alchemical thought, blending spiritual wisdom with practical experimentation. These early practitioners weren't just tinkering with metals and potions, they were exploring the mysteries of creation itself, seeking to transform the base into the pure, both in the material world and within the human soul. What made these practices so compelling to rulers? It wasn't just about power, it was about legitimacy. In a world where the line between the divine and the earthly was razor thin, a king who could claim the favor of the gods or the knowledge of eternal secrets held an unshakable grip on their people's loyalty. Court magicians and alchemists became indispensable, their craft seen as both a science and an art, blending the practical with the spiritual. Over time, these practices spread, evolving as they traveled from one royal court to another, adapting to new cultures and new rulers. The stage was set for a legacy that would shape empires for centuries to come. Magic wasn't just a spectacle in the royal courts of old, it was a weapon, a shield, and a crown all in one. For rulers, the ability to harness mystical forces wasn't about showmanship, it was about survival. Rituals, spells, and talismans became tools of statecraft, carefully crafted to project an image of divine favor and unassailable authority. Take the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, for example. They didn't just wear golden crowns, they adorned themselves with intricate amulets believed to ward off evil and guarantee protection from the gods. These weren't mere decorations, they were statements of power, visible proof that the ruler stood above mortal concerns, shielded by forces beyond human understanding. In medieval Europe, the stakes were just as high. Kings and queens surrounded themselves with court magicians who could cast spells to curse rivals or bless alliances. These weren't shadowy figures lurking in the background. They were trusted advisors, their craft a blend of science, art, and faith. One notable example is the use of enchanted rings or talismans, said to grant the wearer invincibility in battle or the wisdom to outwit their enemies. The secrecy surrounding these practices only added to their allure. A spell whispered in a darkened chamber or a ritual performed under the light of a full moon became more than just a superstition. It was a symbol of the ruler's connection to forces that others could neither see nor understand. But why do these practices hold such sway? The answer lies in the human need for certainty in an uncertain world. A king who could claim divine approval or supernatural protection wasn't just a leader. He was a figure of awe, someone whose rule seemed ordained by powers greater than himself. This wasn't just about intimidating rivals, it was about inspiring loyalty among the people. After all, who would dare challenge a ruler blessed by the gods or guarded by ancient magic? Yet, while magic often took center stage, it wasn't the only force at play. Alchemy, its close cousin, worked in tandem with these mystical practices, offering a different kind of power. Where magic dealt in the intangible spells, curses, and divine favor, alchemy sought to transform the tangible world. It was a pursuit of perfection, whether in the form of gold, elixirs of life, or the philosopher's stone. Together, these two disciplines formed a powerful duo, shaping the politics and culture of royal courts across the globe. The stage was set for a fascinating interplay between the seen and the unseen, the material and the mystical, a dance that would define the legacy of ancient rulers for centuries to come. Among the many dreams that captivated the minds of ancient rulers, one stood above all: the quest for immortality. This wasn't just a fleeting wish, it was an obsession, a driving force that shaped the lives of kings and emperors across the globe. At the heart of this pursuit was alchemy, a discipline that promised not just wealth or power, but the ultimate prize, eternal life. And at the center of alchemical lore was the Philosopher's Stone, a legendary substance said to grant immortality and turn base metals into gold. For rulers who already commanded vast empires, the idea of conquering death itself was irresistible. They surrounded themselves with alchemists, men and women who claimed to hold the secrets of the universe in their hands, crafting potions and elixirs that could defy the natural order. One of the most famous examples comes from ancient China, where the first emperor, Qin Shi Huang, became consumed by the desire to live forever. His court alchemists worked tirelessly, experimenting with rare herbs, minerals, and mystical formulas to create the elixir of life. Stories tell of expeditions sent to distant lands in search of mythical ingredients, and of elaborate rituals performed to appease the gods of longevity. But Qin Shi Huang's quest ended in tragedy. Some say he died from consuming a potion laced with mercury, a toxic substance believed by alchemists to hold transformative powers. His story is a stark reminder of how far rulers were willing to go in their pursuit of immortality, even at the risk of their own lives. The Philosopher's Stone, however, wasn't just a tool for eternal life, it was also a symbol of perfection. Alchemists believed that the process of creating the stone mirrored the purification of the soul, a journey from the chaotic and impure to the harmonious and divine. This idea resonated deeply with rulers who saw themselves as divine or semi-divine figures. By seeking the Philosopher's Stone, they weren't just chasing immortality, they were striving to embody the ideal of a perfect ruler, one who transcended human limitations. But alchemy wasn't just about lofty spiritual goals, it was also deeply practical. In medieval Europe, alchemists were often employed to create medicines, dyes, and even weapons for royal courts. Their work blended science and mysticism in ways that seem strange to modern eyes, but it was rooted in a genuine curiosity about the natural world. They studied the properties of metals, experimented with chemical reactions, and documented their findings in cryptic texts filled with symbols and allegories. These texts weren't just manuals, they were works of art, reflecting the alchemists' belief that their craft was both a science and a spiritual calling. What made alchemy so compelling to rulers was its promise of transformation. Whether it was turning lead into gold, curing disease, or granting eternal life, alchemy offered the possibility of reshaping reality itself. This wasn't just about personal gain, it was about securing the future of their dynasties. A king who could live forever, or who possessed the Philosopher's Stone, would ensure that their legacy endured for generations. It's no wonder that alchemists were held in such high regard, their work shrouded in secrecy and protected by the most powerful people in the world. The blend of science and mysticism in alchemy also made it uniquely suited to the needs of royal courts. It wasn't just a practical pursuit, it was a way of understanding the universe, a philosophy that connected the material and the spiritual. For rulers, this duality was deeply appealing. It allowed them to project an image of divine authority while also engaging in the practical concerns of governance. Alchemy became a tool of statecraft, a way to demonstrate both wisdom and power. And as the centuries passed, its influence only grew, leaving a legacy that continues to fascinate us to this day. In the grand halls of royal courts where power and intrigue intertwined, the figures of court magicians and alchemists stood as both pillars of wisdom and shadows of mystery. These were not mere entertainers or eccentric scholars. They were trusted advisors, healers, and at times even spies. Their knowledge of the occult granted them a unique position, revered for their wisdom, yet feared for the secrets they held. Imagine a world where the line between science and sorcery blurred, and those who walked it wielded immense influence over kings and queens. Take, for instance, John Dee, the enigmatic court magician to Queen Elizabeth I. A man of vast intellect, Dee was not only a mathematician and astronomer but also a practitioner of the mystical arts. He advised the Queen on matters of state, using his skills in astrology to determine auspicious dates for important events. Dee's library, filled with ancient texts on alchemy and the occult, was one of the largest in Europe, a testament to his insatiable curiosity. But his reputation as a magician also made him a figure of suspicion. To some, he was a wise counselor, to others, a conjurer of dark forces. This duality was the hallmark of court magicians, respected for their knowledge, yet always shrouded in a veil of fear. In the Abbasid Caliphate, alchemists held a similarly complex role. These scholars, deeply versed in both science and mysticism, were often employed to create elixirs, medicines, and even poisons. The court of Harun al-Rashid, a caliph renowned for his patronage of learning, was a hub of alchemical activity. Here, alchemists like Jabir ibn Hayyan, known in the West as Jabir, explored the transformation of matter, laying the groundwork for modern chemistry. Yet, their work was not without danger. The ability to create potent substances made them indispensable, but it also put them at risk of being used or eliminated by those in power. The tools and rituals of these practitioners were as varied as their roles. Court magicians often relied on astrolabes, crystal balls, and intricate charts to divine the future or interpret celestial signs. Rituals might involve chanting, the burning of rare herbs, or the use of talismans inscribed with cryptic symbols. Alchemists, on the other hand, worked in laboratories filled with alembics, crucibles, and shelves of mysterious powders and liquids. Their experiments were as much about spiritual enlightenment as they were about material transformation. The act of turning lead into gold, for example, was not just a physical process, it was a metaphor for the purification of the soul. What made these figures so indispensable to royal courts? Beyond their practical skills, they offered something far more valuable: the illusion of control in an unpredictable world. A king or queen who could consult the stars, brew an elixir of life, or curse an enemy was seen as a ruler who transcended mortal limitations. This perception was crucial in maintaining authority, especially in times of crisis. Yet, the very knowledge that made these practitioners powerful also made them vulnerable. To be a court magician or alchemist was to walk a knife's edge, balancing the trust of one's ruler with the ever-present risk of suspicion or betrayal. The legacy of these figures is a testament to the enduring human fascination with the unknown. Their work bridged the gap between the seen and the unseen, the material and the mystical, leaving behind a rich tapestry of knowledge and legend. From the astrological charts of John Dee to the alchemical treatises of Jabir ibn Hayyan, their contributions shaped not only the courts they served but also the course of history itself. And as we delve deeper into their world, we begin to see how their craft, part science, part art, part magic, continues to captivate us to this day. In the hands of a royal magician or alchemist, a crystal ball wasn't just a piece of polished glass, it was a window into the unseen. These tools of the trade, crafted with precision and imbued with symbolism, were as vital to their work as a crown was to a king. From astrolabes that mapped the heavens to ancient manuscripts filled with cryptic symbols, each artifact held a unique power, believed to channel the very forces of the universe. Take the astrolabe, for instance. This intricate device, often made of brass and adorned with delicate engravings, was more than just a navigational aid. In the hands of a court magician, it became a tool for interpreting celestial omens, linking the movements of the stars to the fate of kingdoms. The heavens, after all, were seen as a divine blueprint, and those who could read them held the keys to destiny. Among the most revered of these artifacts was the Emerald Tablet, a legendary text attributed to Hermes Trismegistus. This ancient manuscript, said to contain the secrets of alchemy, was more than just a guide to transforming metals. It was a philosophical treasure trove. Its famous maxim, "as above, so below," encapsulated the alchemist's belief in the interconnectedness of the cosmos. The tablet wasn't just a manual, it was a symbol of the unity between the material and the spiritual, the earthly and the divine. For rulers, possessing such knowledge was akin to holding a piece of the divine itself, a tangible link to the mysteries of creation. But the tools of magic and alchemy weren't limited to objects. Rituals played an equally crucial role, serving as the bridge between the practitioner and the forces they sought to harness. Blood oaths, for example, were a common practice in many royal courts. By sealing an agreement with blood, participants believed they were binding themselves not just to each other, but to the cosmic order itself. These rituals weren't mere formalities, they were acts of profound significance, meant to invoke divine witnesses and ensure the pact's inviolability. Similarly, celestial alignments, rituals timed to coincide with specific astronomical events, were thought to amplify their power. A spell cast under a full moon or an elixir brewed during a solar eclipse was believed to carry the weight of the heavens themselves. The symbolic meanings behind these practices were just as important as their practical applications. A crystal ball, for instance, wasn't just a tool for divination. It represented clarity, insight, and the pursuit of hidden truth. An astrolabe, with its intricate gears and celestial maps, symbolized the harmony between the earthly and the divine. Even the materials used in alchemy held deep significance. Gold, the ultimate goal of many alchemical pursuits, wasn't just a precious metal, it was seen as the embodiment of perfection, a reflection of the divine light. By working with these materials, alchemists and magicians weren't just transforming matter. They were participating in a cosmic dance, striving to bring the imperfect world closer to its ideal form. These tools and rituals, steeped in symbolism and mystery, were more than just instruments of power. They were expressions of a worldview that saw the universe as a living, interconnected whole. For the rulers who employed them, they offered not just control over the material world, but a sense of connection to something greater. And for us, they provide a fascinating glimpse into a world where science and spirituality were inseparable, where the pursuit of knowledge was as much about understanding the cosmos as it was about mastering it. As we explore these artifacts and practices, we begin to see how they shaped not only the lives of those who wielded them, but the very fabric of history itself. In the world of royal magic and alchemy, every symbol, every ritual carried layers of meaning far beyond the surface. Fire, water, gold, these weren't just elements, they were gateways to deeper truths, each one representing a fundamental force of the universe. Fire, for instance, symbolized transformation and purification. It was the spark of creation, the force that could reduce the impure to ash and reveal the hidden essence within. Alchemists often used fire in their experiments, not just to heat crucibles but to invoke its spiritual power, believing that the flames could burn away imperfections in both matter and soul. Water, on the other hand, represented fluidity and renewal. It was the essence of life, the medium through which change flowed. In rituals, water was used to cleanse and consecrate, to prepare the practitioner for communion with the divine. Gold, perhaps the most coveted of all, was more than just a metal, it was the embodiment of perfection. In alchemy, gold symbolized the ultimate goal, the transformation of the base into the divine. It wasn't just about wealth, it was about achieving a state of purity and harmony, both in the material world and within oneself. For rulers, possessing gold wasn't just a sign of power, it was a declaration of their alignment with the cosmic order, a tangible connection to the divine. But the symbolism didn't stop at the elements. Astrological charts and sacred geometry played equally crucial roles in royal decision-making. Astrology, with its intricate web of celestial influences, was seen as a way to understand the will of the gods and predict the future. Kings and queens consulted astrologers to determine the most auspicious times for coronations, battles, and treaties. The zodiac, with its 12 signs, was more than just a map of the stars. It was a guide to understanding human nature and destiny. Each sign was believed to influence different aspects of life, from personality traits to the rise and fall of empires. In medieval courts, it wasn't uncommon to find tapestries, manuscripts, and even thrones adorned with zodiac symbols, a constant reminder of the ruler's connection to the heavens. Sacred geometry, too, held a special place in royal magic. Circles, triangles, and other geometric shapes weren't just designs, they were expressions of cosmic harmony. The circle, for example, symbolized unity and eternity with no beginning or end. It was often used in rituals to create sacred spaces, marking the boundary between the mundane and the divine. The triangle, with its 3 points, represented the trinity of body, mind, and spirit, a reflection of the alchemist's quest for balance and transformation. These shapes weren't just abstract concepts, they were woven into the very fabric of royal life, from the architecture of palaces to the design of crowns and scepters. Take, for instance, the famous rose windows of Gothic cathedrals. These intricate designs, often filled with geometric patterns and astrological symbols, weren't just decorative. They were meant to inspire awe and contemplation, drawing the viewer's gaze upward toward the divine. Similarly, in Islamic courts, the use of geometric patterns in art and architecture reflected the belief in the underlying order of the universe. These patterns, often based on the repetition of stars and polygons, were more than just aesthetically pleasing. They were a visual representation of the harmony between the material and the spiritual. The integration of these symbols into royal architecture and art wasn't just about beauty, it was about power. A palace adorned with zodiac symbols or a throne room designed around sacred geometry was more than just a statement of wealth. It was a declaration of the ruler's connection to the divine. Every arch, every fresco, every piece of jewelry was imbued with meaning, designed to inspire loyalty and awe. These symbols weren't just decorations, they were tools of statecraft, carefully crafted to reinforce the ruler's authority and legitimacy. But perhaps the most fascinating aspect of these symbols is how they bridged the gap between the seen and the unseen. They were a way for rulers to communicate with their people, to project an image of divine favor and unassailable power. At the same time, they were a way for the people to connect with something greater than themselves, to feel a sense of wonder and belonging in a world that often seemed chaotic and unpredictable. The legacy of these symbols and rituals is a testament to the enduring human desire to find meaning in the universe, to seek out patterns and connections that transcend the everyday. And as we explore these ancient practices, we begin to see how they shaped not only the lives of those who wielded them, but the very fabric of history itself. If you've ever stood beneath the towering spires of a Gothic cathedral or wandered the labyrinthine halls of an ancient palace, you've likely felt it, a sense of awe as though the very walls were whispering secrets of a bygone era. This isn't just a trick of the imagination. Royal architecture, from the pyramids of Egypt to the grandeur of Versailles, was often designed with more than beauty in mind. It was a deliberate fusion of art and mysticism, a way to channel the unseen forces of the universe into the heart of power. Sacred geometry, hidden chambers, and symbolic motifs weren't mere decorations. They were tools to harness the energies of the cosmos, creating spaces where the divine and the earthly could meet. Take the Great Pyramid of Giza, for example. This monumental structure, built as a tomb for the pharaoh Khufu, is far more than a feat of engineering. Its precise alignment with the stars, specifically the constellation Orion, reflects the ancient Egyptians' belief in the connection between the heavens and the afterlife. The pyramid's corridors and chambers weren't just passageways, they were pathways for the pharaoh's soul to ascend to the stars, guided by the celestial patterns above. Even the pyramid's shape, with its four sides pointing to the cardinal directions, symbolized order and harmony, a reflection of the divine balance the pharaoh sought to maintain in both life and death. Moving forward in time, the Palace of Versailles offers another striking example of mystical influence in architecture. While it's often celebrated for its opulence, Versailles was also a carefully crafted stage for the projection of royal power. Hidden within its ornate design are occult symbols and geometric patterns, many of which were intended to amplify the king's authority. The Hall of Mirrors, with its reflective surfaces and intricate symmetry, wasn't just a dazzling display of wealth, it was a symbolic representation of the Sun King, Louis Roman XIV, as the center of the universe, radiating power and light. Even the gardens, with their meticulously planned layouts, followed principles of sacred geometry, creating a harmonious balance between nature and artifice that mirrored the king's divine right to rule. But it wasn't just grand palaces and tombs that bore the mark of mystical design. Temples, too, were often constructed as conduits for spiritual energy. In ancient Mesopotamia, ziggurats, massive step temples, were built to bridge the gap between the earth and the heavens. Their tiered structures were seen as stairways for the gods to descend and for humans to ascend, a physical manifestation of the connection between the divine and the mortal. Similarly, in medieval Europe, cathedrals were designed with soaring arches and stained glass windows that filtered light into sacred patterns, transforming the space into a vessel for spiritual enlightenment. The rose windows, with their intricate geometric designs, weren't just beautiful, they were cosmic maps, guiding the faithful toward a deeper understanding of the divine order. These architectural marvels weren't just about aesthetics or even functionality. They were expressions of a worldview that saw the universe as a living, interconnected whole. By aligning buildings with celestial bodies, embedding sacred geometry into their designs, and infusing spaces with symbolic meaning, architects and rulers sought to create environments where the mystical and the material could coexist. These structures were more than just places to live, worship, or be buried. They were portals to the divine, designed to channel the energies of the cosmos and reinforce the ruler's connection to the sacred. As we turn our attention to the art that adorned these spaces, we begin to see how the mystical principles of architecture were echoed in the paintings, sculptures, and tapestries that filled them. Art, like architecture, became a medium for conveying the mysteries of the universe, blending the tangible and the intangible in ways that continue to captivate us today. Art has always been a mirror of the human soul, reflecting our deepest fears, desires, and mysteries. In the royal courts of old, it became something more, a canvas for the mystical. Paintings, tapestries, and sculptures weren't just decorative. They were vessels for hidden knowledge, encoding the secrets of magic and alchemy in ways that only the initiated could fully understand. Take, for instance, the intricate tapestries that adorned the walls of medieval castles. These weren't mere displays of wealth. They were stories woven in thread, often depicting scenes of alchemical transformation or celestial harmony. One famous example, the unicorn tapestries, is thought to contain layers of alchemical symbolism, from the capture and purification of the unicorn to its eventual resurrection, a metaphor for the alchemist's quest to transform the base into the pure. In the Renaissance, artists like Hieronymus Bosch and Albrecht Dürer took this tradition even further. Bosch's surreal and often unsettling paintings, such as The Garden of Earthly Delights, are filled with alchemical and occult imagery. Fruit, fire, and fantastical creatures populate these works, each element carrying a deeper meaning tied to the mysteries of creation and transformation. Dürer, on the other hand, was known for his meticulous engravings, many of which included astrological and geometric symbols. His Melancholia Eye, a haunting depiction of a brooding angel surrounded by alchemical tools, is a masterclass in symbolic storytelling, blending melancholy with the promise of intellectual and spiritual enlightenment. But art wasn't just about hiding secrets, it was also a way to make the intangible tangible. Sculptures of gods and goddesses, for example, weren't just objects of worship, they were believed to house the divine presence itself. In ancient Egypt, statues of deities were ritually activated through ceremonies that opened their eyes and breathed life into them. Similarly, in medieval Europe, reliquaries, ornate containers holding sacred relics, were often adorned with precious metals and gemstones, not just for beauty but to amplify their spiritual power. These works of art became bridges between the physical and spiritual worlds, allowing rulers and their subjects to interact with the divine in a direct and personal way. The use of allegory in royal art was particularly powerful. Artists employed symbols like the phoenix rising from its ashes to represent rebirth and immortality, or the Ouroboros, a snake eating its own tail to signify the eternal cycle of creation and destruction. These motifs weren't just decorative, they were messages meant to inspire awe and convey the ruler's connection to the cosmic order. Even the colors used in these works carried meaning. Gold, as we've seen, symbolized perfection and divine light, while red often represented the transformative power of fire or the blood of sacrifice. Every brushstroke, every chisel mark was imbued with purpose, creating a visual language that spoke to both the conscious and subconscious mind. And then there were the manuscripts, handwritten books filled with alchemical diagrams, astrological charts, and mystical texts. These weren't just reference materials, they were works of art in their own right, their pages illuminated with intricate illustrations and gold leaf. The Voynich Manuscript, for example, remains one of the most enigmatic books in history, its strange symbols and botanical drawings defying interpretation to this day. While its exact purpose remains a mystery, its existence speaks to the deep connection between art, mysticism, and the pursuit of knowledge. Art, in all its forms, served as a bridge between the seen and the unseen, the known and the unknown. It was a way for rulers to project their power, for scholars to preserve their secrets, and for the faithful to connect with the divine. But it wasn't just a tool of the elite, it was a shared language, a way for people to grapple with the mysteries of existence. And as we turn our attention to the written word, we'll see how literature carried forward this tradition, preserving the wisdom of the ages in stories, poems, and treatises that continue to captivate us today. The written word has always held an extraordinary power, a power to preserve, to conceal, and to reveal. In the royal courts of antiquity, this power was wielded with precision, as ancient texts and manuscripts became the keepers of secrets too profound to be spoken aloud. Among these, the Pacatrix and the Book of Abramelin stand as towering monuments to the mystical knowledge that shaped empires. These weren't mere books, they were treasure troves of wisdom, filled with spells, rituals, and alchemical formulas that could alter the course of history. But their true value lay not just in their content, it was in their exclusivity. These texts were guarded as state secrets, passed down through generations of rulers, advisors, and magicians, each generation adding its own layer of interpretation and insight. The Pacatrix, for instance, was more than just a manual of astrological magic. It was a bridge between the earthly and the celestial. Originating in the medieval Islamic world, this text became a cornerstone of European occultism, offering detailed instructions on how to harness the power of the stars. Kings and queens consulted its pages to time their coronations, launch military campaigns, and even predict the outcomes of political alliances. The Book of Abramelin, on the other hand, was a guide to summoning angelic forces, promising its practitioners divine wisdom and protection. For rulers, these texts weren't just tools of power, they were symbols of legitimacy, proof that their authority was backed by forces beyond mortal comprehension. But the journey of these manuscripts wasn't without its perils. Written in cryptic language and filled with allegories, they posed a challenge even to the most learned scholars. Interpreting their secrets required not just intellectual prowess, but also a deep understanding of the cultural and spiritual contexts in which they were written. For example, the Pacatrix often speaks in riddles, using metaphors drawn from astrology, alchemy, and mythology. A simple phrase like "the moon's silver eye" might refer to a specific celestial alignment or a symbolic representation of divine insight. Similarly, the Book of Abramelin demands rigorous purification rituals before its secrets can be unlocked, a process that could take years of dedication. These challenges made the texts both revered and feared, their knowledge accessible only to those deemed worthy. The influence of these manuscripts extended far beyond the personal ambitions of individual rulers. They shaped entire policies, guiding decisions that affected millions. A king who consulted the Pacatrix to time a battle might have believed he was aligning his fate with the stars, but in reality, he was also shaping the destiny of his kingdom. The same principles applied to alchemical texts, which often contained formulas for creating medicines, dyes, and even weapons. These practical applications made the manuscripts indispensable, blending the mystical with the mundane in ways that continue to fascinate us today. Yet, despite their profound impact, these texts remain shrouded in mystery. Modern scholars face the daunting task of deciphering their meanings, often relying on fragmented translations and centuries-old commentaries. The challenge lies not just in understanding the words themselves, but in grasping the worldview that produced them. What did it mean to an ancient alchemist to turn lead into gold? Was it a literal process or a metaphor for spiritual enlightenment? These questions remind us that the true power of these manuscripts lies not in their answers, but in the questions they inspire. As we turn our gaze from the written word to the stars, we see a parallel thread in the role of astrology in royal courts. Just as these texts guided earthly decisions, the heavens themselves were seen as a celestial roadmap, offering insights into the future and the will of the gods. The interplay between astrology and alchemy, between the written and the celestial, reveals a world where the boundaries between science and spirituality were fluid, each informing and enriching the other. And as we explore this intricate web of knowledge, we begin to understand how the mysteries of the past continue to shape our understanding of the universe today. When the stars aligned, so did the fates of empires. In the royal courts of the ancient and medieval worlds, astrology wasn't just a pastime, it was a cornerstone of governance. Kings and queens didn't merely consult astrologers for curiosity's sake. They relied on them to make decisions that could alter the course of history. From launching wars to forging marriage alliances, the heavens were seen as a celestial blueprint, guiding rulers through the complexities of power. Court astrologers, often among the most trusted advisors, wielded immense influence, interpreting the movements of planets and stars to predict the most auspicious moments for action. Their role wasn't just about reading the skies, it was about shaping the destiny of nations. Take Charlemagne, the legendary Holy Roman Emperor, whose reign was deeply intertwined with astrological practices. His court astrologers were tasked with determining the most favorable times for military campaigns, ensuring that the stars were in alignment before any battle was waged. These celestial calculations weren't just about superstition, they were about strategy. A well-timed attack, backed by the blessings of the heavens, could inspire confidence among troops and strike fear into enemies. Similarly, in the Mughal Empire, rulers like Akbar the Great turned to astrologers to guide their decisions on everything from taxation policies to the construction of monumental architecture. The alignment of the stars was believed to influence prosperity and stability, making astrology a vital tool for maintaining order. But astrology's influence extended far beyond the battlefield or the treasury. It played a pivotal role in one of the most personal yet politically significant decisions a ruler could make: marriage. Royal marriages were rarely about love, they were strategic alliances, meticulously planned to strengthen political ties and secure dynasties. Astrologers were called upon to ensure that the union would be blessed by the stars, casting horoscopes to determine the compatibility of the bride and groom. A marriage deemed inauspicious could threaten the stability of a kingdom, while one aligned with favorable celestial signs promised harmony and prosperity. In this way, astrology became a silent architect of empires, shaping the bonds between nations and the futures of royal bloodlines. Yet, for all its perceived benefits, astrology also had a darker side. The same celestial forces that could bring prosperity could also foretell disaster. When astrologers predicted unfavorable omens, a solar eclipse, a comet, or the retrograde motion of a planet, it could sow panic and unrest. Rulers faced a delicate balancing act. Ignoring these warnings risked divine retribution, but acting on them could undermine their authority. Take, for example, the court of Elizabeth I, where astrologers like John Dee played a dual role. While Dee's predictions often bolstered the Queen's confidence, they also fueled paranoia, as rival factions used astrology to plot against her. The stars, it seemed, could be as much a source of fear as they were of guidance. This tension between trust and suspicion highlights the complex relationship between rulers and their astrologers. On one hand, these practitioners were revered for their wisdom and insight, their ability to decode the language of the heavens. On the other, they were feared for the secrets they held and the power they wielded. A court astrologer who fell out of favor could face dire consequences, their predictions dismissed as heresy or their lives forfeit. This precarious position made their craft as much about politics as it was about celestial science. Astrology's impact on royal decision-making wasn't just a relic of the past, it left a lasting imprint on the course of history. From the rise and fall of dynasties to the forging of alliances that shaped continents, the stars played a silent but pivotal role. And yet, as we delve deeper into the mystical practices of royal courts, we begin to see that astrology was just one thread in a much larger tapestry. Beyond the stars lay other, more shadowy forces, magic that wasn't just about guidance but about control. rituals that weren't just about harmony but about domination. As we turn our attention to these darker arts, we uncover a world where power wasn't just sought in the heavens, but in the very fabric of reality itself. Beneath the glittering surface of royal courts where power and prestige reigned supreme, there existed a shadowy undercurrent, a world of curses, hexes, and black magic. While magic was often used to protect thrones and ensure prosperity, it also had a darker side, one that sought not to heal or guide but to destroy. Rulers and their advisors didn't shy away from these malevolent practices when the stakes were high. Curses became weapons, hexes turned into tools of control, and black magic was wielded as a means to eliminate rivals or secure dominance. This wasn't just superstition, it was a calculated use of fear and mysticism to maintain power at any cost. One of the most infamous examples of this dark art comes from ancient Egypt, the supposed curse of Tutankhamun's tomb. When the tomb was discovered in the early 20th century, a series of mysterious deaths among those who had entered it sparked rumors of a curse. While modern science attributes these deaths to natural causes, the legend persists, rooted in the ancient belief that pharaohs protected their resting places with powerful spells. These curses weren't just threats, they were a form of psychological warfare designed to deter tomb raiders and ensure the king's eternal peace. In life and death, the pharaohs wielded magic as both a shield and a sword. In medieval Europe, the use of dark magic took on a more sinister tone, particularly during the witch trials. While many of these trials were fueled by hysteria and political maneuvering, some rulers actively employed accusations of witchcraft to eliminate enemies or consolidate power. Take the case of King James VI of Scotland, who became obsessed with witchcraft after suspecting that a group of witches had conspired to sink his ship during a storm. His paranoia led to the torture and execution of countless individuals, many of whom were innocent. Yet behind the cruelty was a calculated strategy. By labeling rivals as witches, rulers could justify their removal while projecting an image of divine justice. But dabbling in dark magic wasn't without its risks. For every ruler who used curses to secure their throne, there were stories of those who paid a heavy price. The practice of black magic was believed to carry severe consequences, not just for the target but for the practitioner as well. In many cultures, it was thought that invoking malevolent forces could backfire, bringing misfortune, illness, or even death upon the caster. This belief created a delicate balance. Magic could be a powerful tool, but it was also a double-edged sword, one that demanded caution and respect. As the lines between magic and warfare blurred, alchemy began to play a surprising role in the strategies of royal courts. While alchemy is often associated with the pursuit of gold or immortality, it also had practical applications in warfare. Alchemists were tasked with creating everything from potent poisons to explosive compounds, their knowledge of chemistry and metallurgy making them invaluable in times of conflict. The Philosopher's Stone, often seen as a symbol of spiritual transformation, also had a darker counterpart, the ability to craft weapons that could turn the tide of battle. In this way, alchemy became not just a tool of enlightenment, but a weapon of war, its secrets as deadly as they were divine. The interplay between magic, alchemy, and warfare reveals a complex tapestry of power and ambition. In the hands of rulers, these practices were more than just superstitions. They were instruments of control, shaping the fates of nations and the lives of countless individuals. As we explore this darker side of royal magic, we begin to see how the pursuit of power, whether through curses or chemistry, was often a gamble, one that could elevate a ruler to unparalleled heights or plunge them into ruin. And as we turn our attention to the alchemical innovations that shaped the battlefields of old, we uncover yet another layer of this intricate and often perilous world. On the battlefields of ancient and medieval times, where steel and strategy often decided the fate of empires, alchemy played a surprising and transformative role. Far from being confined to the pursuit of gold or eternal life, alchemists turned their knowledge toward the art of war, crafting weapons and tools that could tip the scales in a conflict. Their work wasn't just about chemistry, it was about survival, innovation, and the relentless drive to gain an edge over the enemy. From incendiary compounds to protective talismans, alchemy became a hidden force behind the scenes, shaping the outcomes of battles and the rise and fall of kingdoms. One of the most legendary examples of alchemical warfare is Greek fire, a mysterious substance that struck terror into the hearts of enemies. Developed by the Byzantine Empire, this incendiary weapon was said to burn even on water, making it nearly impossible to extinguish. While the exact formula remains a closely guarded secret to this day, historians believe it involved a combination of ingredients like naphtha, quicklime, and sulfur materials that alchemists were intimately familiar with. Greek fire wasn't just a weapon, it was a psychological tool, its fiery spectacle demoralizing foes and securing victories for the Byzantine navy. The alchemists who developed it were more than just scientists, they were strategists, their knowledge of chemistry giving rise to one of the most feared weapons of its time. But alchemy's contributions to warfare weren't limited to offensive tools. Protective charms and talismans, often crafted with alchemical symbols and materials, were believed to shield soldiers from harm. These amulets, sometimes inscribed with cryptic formulas or astrological signs, were worn into battle as a form of spiritual armor. While their effectiveness might be debated, their psychological impact was undeniable. A soldier who believed they were protected by divine or alchemical forces fought with greater confidence, turning superstition into a kind of battlefield advantage. These practices reveal a fascinating blend of science and spirituality, where the lines between the tangible and the intangible blurred. Alchemists also played a critical role in fortifying cities and castles. Their knowledge of metallurgy allowed them to create stronger alloys for weapons and armor, while their experiments with chemical compounds led to innovations in siege defenses. Some alchemists were even tasked with developing poisons, both for use in assassination plots and for contaminating enemy water supplies. These deadly concoctions were often cloaked in secrecy, their formulas passed down through generations of practitioners. The alchemist's lab became a place of both creation and destruction, their work as much about protecting their own as it was about defeating the enemy. The impact of these innovations extended far beyond individual battles. The development of Greek fire, for instance, helped the Byzantine Empire maintain its dominance for centuries, while the use of alchemical powders and protective charms influenced military strategies across cultures. Alchemists weren't just tinkering in the shadows, they were shaping the course of history, their contributions echoing through the annals of warfare. Their work reminds us that the pursuit of knowledge, even in its most arcane forms, has always been driven by the need to survive and thrive in a competitive world. Yet, the intersection of alchemy and warfare also raises deeper questions about the relationship between science, magic, and morality. While alchemists sought to harness the forces of nature for both creation and destruction, their work often walked a fine line between enlightenment and exploitation. The same knowledge that could heal or protect could also be used to inflict suffering, a duality that continues to resonate in our modern world. As we turn our attention to the spiritual dimensions of alchemy, we begin to see how these practices were not just about material transformation, but also about seeking a higher understanding of the universe. This quest for balance between the physical and the spiritual, the destructive and the divine, reveals the true complexity of alchemy's legacy. In the intricate dance of power within royal courts, magic and religion often wove a complex tapestry, each thread pulling at the other in a delicate balance of influence and authority. For rulers, these mystical practices weren't just personal beliefs, they were tools of statecraft, carefully wielded to reinforce their divine right to rule or, at times, to challenge the very religious institutions that legitimized their power. This relationship between magic and religion was rarely straightforward. It was a dynamic interplay of alliance, tension, and sometimes outright conflict, shaping the spiritual and political landscapes of entire civilizations. Take, for example, the oracles of ancient Greece. These revered figures, often women, were believed to channel the voices of the gods, offering prophecies that guided everything from personal decisions to the fate of empires. The Oracle of Delphi, perhaps the most famous, was consulted by kings and generals seeking divine approval for their plans. But these oracles weren't just passive vessels, they wielded immense influence, their cryptic utterances capable of swaying public opinion or legitimizing a ruler's claim to the throne. In this way, magic and religion became intertwined, with the oracle's mystical authority reinforcing the ruler's divine mandate. Yet, this relationship wasn't without its tensions. The priestesses who served as oracles were both revered and feared, their power a reminder that the divine could not be fully controlled, even by kings. In the Islamic world, the blending of alchemy with mysticism offers another fascinating lens into this relationship. During the golden age of Islam, alchemists like Jabir ibn Hayyan didn't just seek to transform metals. They explored the spiritual dimensions of their craft, viewing alchemy as a path to understanding the divine. This fusion of science and spirituality resonated deeply with Islamic rulers, who saw in it a way to align their earthly power with the cosmic order. Yet, this blending also created friction. While some religious scholars embraced alchemy as a means of exploring God's creation, others viewed it with suspicion, fearing it could undermine traditional religious authority. The result was a delicate balance where alchemists and rulers navigated both reverence and skepticism to advance their goals. These examples reveal a recurring theme. The use of magic to reinforce or challenge religious authority was a double-edged sword. On one hand, it allowed rulers to project an image of divine favor, their power seemingly ordained by higher forces. On the other, it risked alienating religious leaders or provoking backlash from those who saw mystical practices as heretical or dangerous. This tension wasn't just a matter of belief, it was a struggle for control, a battle over who held the keys to the divine. And yet, within this complex interplay, one group often stood at the intersection of magic, religion, and power: women. In many cultures, women were seen as natural conduits for mystical forces, their connection to the spiritual world making them both revered and feared. From the priestesses of ancient Greece to the seers and healers of medieval Europe, women played a pivotal role in shaping the mystical landscape of royal courts. Their stories, often overlooked, offer a unique perspective on the ways magic and religion intersected in the pursuit of power, a perspective we'll explore in the next part of our journey. In the grand theatres of royal courts where power was often dominated by men, women carved out their own realms of influence through the mystical arts. Far from being mere bystanders, women were both practitioners and patrons of magic and alchemy, wielding these forces to shape politics, culture, and even the fates of empires. Their stories, often overshadowed by their male counterparts, reveal a hidden tapestry of power where the mystical became a tool for navigating the rigid hierarchies of their time. From the whispers of love potions to the precision of astrological charts, women used their knowledge of the unseen to leave an indelible mark on history. One of the most iconic figures in this realm was Cleopatra, the last pharaoh of Egypt. While her political acumen and alliances are well documented, less known are the rumors of her mastery of love potions and elixirs. Ancient texts suggest that Cleopatra used her knowledge of alchemy and herbalism to enchant powerful men, including Julius Caesar and Mark Antony. Whether these stories are fact or legend, they underscore her reputation as a woman who understood the power of mysticism in diplomacy and seduction. Her ability to blend science, magic, and politics made her a formidable force, one whose legacy continues to captivate us centuries later. Across the Mediterranean, in the courts of medieval and Renaissance Europe, women like Queen Elizabeth I also turned to the mystical to secure their power. Elizabeth's reign was marked by her reliance on astrologers like John Dee, who helped her navigate the treacherous waters of court intrigue and foreign threats. Astrology wasn't just a hobby for Elizabeth, it was a strategic tool. By aligning her decisions with the stars, she projected an image of divine favor, bolstering her authority in a world where a woman on the throne was still a rarity. Her use of mystical practices wasn't just about personal belief. It was a calculated move to reinforce her legitimacy and outmaneuver her enemies. But it wasn't just queens who wielded mystical power. Women of lower status, such as healers, seers, and midwives, also played crucial roles in royal courts. These women, often referred to as wise women, were sought after for their knowledge of herbs, potions, and divination. While their influence was less visible, it was no less significant. They provided counsel to rulers, healed the sick, and even acted as mediators between the court and the spiritual world. Yet, their proximity to power also made them vulnerable. As the tides of history turned, many of these women found themselves accused of witchcraft, their knowledge and skills twisted into evidence of heresy. The decline of women's roles in royal magic and alchemy mirrors the broader shift in how these practices were viewed. As the Enlightenment dawned and science began to take precedence over mysticism, the once revered arts of magic and alchemy fell out of favor. Royal courts, once bastions of occult knowledge, turned their focus to reason and empirical evidence. Women, who had been central to these mystical traditions, found themselves increasingly marginalized, their contributions erased or dismissed as superstition. Yet, the legacy of these women endures. Their stories remind us that power, in all its forms, has always been about more than just brute force or political maneuvering. It's about understanding the unseen forces that shape our world, whether through the stars, the elements, or the human spirit. As we reflect on their roles, we begin to see how the mystical arts were not just tools of control, but also avenues for women to assert their influence in a world that often sought to silence them. And as we turn to the final chapter of our journey, we'll explore how these ancient practices, though diminished, continue to echo in the modern world, shaping our understanding of power, knowledge, and the mysteries that still lie beyond our grasp. As the sun set on the age of royal magic and alchemy, a new dawn began to rise, one shaped by reason, observation, and the relentless pursuit of empirical truth. The once unshakable influence of court magicians and alchemists began to wane, not in a single dramatic moment, but through a gradual shift in how humanity understood the world. The rise of science, coupled with sweeping religious reformations, challenged the very foundations of mystical practices, transforming royal courts from bastions of the occult into laboratories of discovery. This transition wasn't just a change in tools or advisors. It was a profound rethinking of what it meant to wield power and knowledge. One of the most significant factors in this decline was the scientific revolution, a period that reshaped the way people thought about the natural world. Thinkers like Galileo, Newton, and Descartes began to question long-held beliefs, replacing superstition with observation and experimentation. The heavens, once seen as the domain of gods and omens, were now mapped with mathematical precision. The philosopher's stone, the dream of turning lead into gold, began to lose its allure as chemistry emerged as a distinct field, grounded in measurable processes rather than mystical transformations. Royal courts, once filled with astrologers and alchemists, now sought the expertise of scientists and engineers. The telescope replaced the crystal ball, and the laboratory supplanted the alchemist's workshop. At the same time, religious reformations across Europe further eroded the legitimacy of mystical practices. The Protestant Reformation, with its emphasis on individual faith and skepticism of intermediary figures, cast a shadow over the traditional roles of magicians and alchemists. Practices that had once been seen as divine or sacred were now viewed with suspicion, labeled as heresy or devilry. This shift wasn't just theological, it was political. Rulers who had once relied on astrologers to legitimize their rule now sought to distance themselves from anything that might be seen as occult, fearing the wrath of religious reformers or the judgment of their subjects. The very tools that had once secured their power now became liabilities. The Enlightenment, with its celebration of reason and progress, delivered the final blow to the mystical traditions of royal courts. Philosophers like Voltaire and Diderot championed the idea that truth could be found through logic and evidence, not through ancient texts or cryptic rituals. The idea of consulting the stars for guidance or seeking eternal life through alchemy began to seem not just outdated but absurd. Kings and queens, eager to align themselves with this new age of enlightenment, replaced their mystical advisors with philosophers, scientists, and economists. The court magician, once a figure of awe and reverence, became a relic of a bygone era, their craft dismissed as mere superstition. Yet, even as these practices faded from royal courts, their legacy endured. The knowledge preserved by alchemists and magicians didn't vanish, it evolved. The meticulous records kept by alchemists laid the groundwork for modern chemistry, while the symbolic language of magic found new life in literature and art. The philosopher's stone, though no longer sought in laboratories, became a metaphor for the human quest for perfection and enlightenment. And the stars, once read for omens, continued to inspire wonder, their mysteries now explored through the lens of astronomy rather than astrology. The decline of royal magic and alchemy wasn't an end but a transformation. It marked the birth of a new way of understanding the world, one that valued observation over intuition and reason over revelation. Yet, in this shift, something was also lost: a sense of wonder, a connection to the mystical, a belief in the unseen. As we look back on this pivotal moment in history, we're reminded that progress often comes at a cost, and that the stories of those who once walked the line between science and magic continue to shape our world in ways we're only beginning to understand. Even as the age of royal magic and alchemy faded into history, its echoes have never truly disappeared. Instead, they've woven themselves into the fabric of modern culture, shaping everything from the stories we tell to the way we understand ourselves and the world around us. The mystical practices once confined to the shadowed halls of royal courts have found new life in the pages of books, the frames of films, and even the rituals of contemporary spirituality. This enduring legacy reminds us that the human fascination with the mystical is as timeless as it is universal. Think about the stories that captivate us today: tales of wizards, enchanted objects, and quests for hidden knowledge. These narratives, from J.K. Rowling's Harry Potter series to the alchemical undertones of Fullmetal Alchemist, owe much to the traditions of ancient magic and alchemy. The Philosopher's Stone, once sought by kings and alchemists, has become a symbol of transformation and enlightenment in modern literature. The idea of turning lead into gold or achieving immortality resonates with audiences because it taps into our deepest desires to transcend our limitations, to understand the mysteries of existence, and to find meaning in a chaotic world. But it's not just in fiction where these ancient practices thrive. In recent years, there's been a resurgence of interest in alchemy and magic as forms of spiritual exploration. Modern practitioners, often blending ancient traditions with contemporary beliefs, see alchemy not as a literal pursuit of gold or immortality, but as a metaphor for personal growth and transformation. The alchemical process of turning base metals into gold becomes a journey of self-discovery, a way to confront and refine the shadow aspects of ourselves. Similarly, magic, once the domain of court magicians, is now embraced by many as a way to connect with nature, manifest intentions, and explore the boundaries of consciousness. These practices, once shrouded in secrecy, are now shared openly, their wisdom adapted to the needs of a new generation. This revival isn't just about nostalgia or escapism, it's about finding relevance in the lessons of the past. The mystical traditions of royal courts remind us of the power of symbolism, the importance of ritual, and the value of seeking harmony between the material and the spiritual. In a world often dominated by logic and technology, these practices offer a counterbalance, a way to reconnect with the intuitive and the unseen. They remind us that knowledge isn't just about facts and figures, it's about understanding the deeper patterns that shape our lives. At the same time, the legacy of royal magic and alchemy challenges us to think critically about the ways we wield power and knowledge. The ancient alchemists and magicians were often gatekeepers of secrets, their knowledge reserved for the elite. Today, as these traditions are democratized, we have the opportunity to reflect on how we use the wisdom of the past. Do we hoard it as the rulers of old did, or do we share it in ways that empower others? The answer lies in recognizing that true wisdom isn't about control, it's about connection, both to each other and to the mysteries that still surround us. As we look back on the mystical practices of ancient royal courts, we're reminded that their legacy isn't just a relic of the past, it's a living, breathing influence that continues to shape our world. Whether through the stories we tell, the rituals we practice, or the lessons we learn, these ancient arts invite us to explore the boundaries of what's possible, to seek out the magic in the mundane, and to embrace the transformative power of curiosity and wonder. And as we move forward, perhaps the greatest lesson we can take from these traditions is this: that the pursuit of knowledge, whether scientific or mystical, is ultimately a journey of the heart, one that connects us to the timeless quest for understanding that defines what it means to be human. The mystical practices of ancient royal courts offer us more than just tales of intrigue and wonder. They hold timeless lessons about the human condition. At their core, these traditions reveal a profound truth: our desire for power, immortality, and connection to something greater than ourselves is as old as civilization itself. Kings and queens sought the Philosopher's Stone not just for eternal life, but to secure their legacy. They consulted astrologers not only to predict the future, but to feel a sense of control in an unpredictable world. These pursuits remind us that the quest for knowledge, whether mystical or scientific, is deeply intertwined with our aspirations and fears. Yet within these stories lies a cautionary thread. The ethical dilemmas faced by rulers and their advisors, whether to use magic for protection or destruction, to seek enlightenment or domination, mirror the choices we grapple with today. The allure of power can be intoxicating, but it also carries risks. How do we wield knowledge responsibly? How do we balance ambition with integrity? These questions, once debated in the shadowed halls of royal courts, remain just as relevant in our modern world. The ancient alchemists and magicians remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is not just about what we can achieve, but how we choose to use it. What makes these traditions particularly fascinating is their duality. On one hand, they were tools of control, used to project authority and maintain order. On the other, they were expressions of a deeper yearning for meaning, for connection, for transcendence. This tension between the practical and the spiritual is something we can still relate to. In a world driven by technology and progress, we often find ourselves searching for that same balance, seeking ways to ground our achievements in a sense of purpose and wonder. The lessons of ancient royal magic also challenge us to think critically about the stories we tell ourselves. The philosopher's stone, for example, wasn't just a literal object, it was a symbol of transformation, a reminder that true power lies not in external riches but in the refinement of the self. Similarly, the rituals and symbols of court magicians weren't just about control. They were about creating a sense of harmony between the seen and the unseen. These ideas invite us to reflect on our own lives. What are we striving for? What do we hope to transform, both within and around us? As we consider the legacy of these practices, it's impossible to ignore their modern echoes. From the resurgence of interest in alchemy as a metaphor for personal growth to the way astrology continues to captivate millions, the mystical traditions of the past still resonate with us today. They remind us that the search for meaning is a universal journey, one that transcends time and culture. Whether we're exploring the stars, delving into the mysteries of the mind, or simply seeking a deeper connection to the world around us, we're part of a tradition that stretches back centuries. But perhaps the most important lesson we can take from these ancient practices is this: knowledge in all its forms carries responsibility. The rulers of old understood that wielding power, whether through magic, alchemy, or diplomacy, required wisdom and restraint. As we navigate our own quests for understanding, we're reminded that the true measure of knowledge isn't just what we discover, but how we choose to share it. In a world that often feels divided, these ancient traditions offer a reminder of our shared humanity and the timeless desire to find light in the darkness. And as we move forward, their wisdom continues to guide us, inviting us to explore not just the mysteries of the universe, but the depths of our own potential. As the world hurtles forward into an age of technology and innovation, the ancient practices of magic and alchemy are finding new life in unexpected places. Far from being relics of a bygone era, these mystical traditions are being reinterpreted and repurposed, offering fresh insights into the challenges we face today. In psychology, for instance, the symbolic language of alchemy has become a powerful tool for understanding personal growth and transformation. Carl Jung, one of the pioneers of modern psychology, saw alchemy not as a literal pursuit of gold, but as a metaphor for the journey of self-discovery. The alchemical process of transforming base metals into precious ones mirrors the human quest to refine our own inner selves, turning fear into courage, ignorance into wisdom, and chaos into harmony. This metaphorical approach to alchemy has resonated deeply in the field of mental health. Therapists and counselors often use symbolic rituals and guided imagery to help individuals confront and integrate their shadow aspects, those hidden or rejected parts of ourselves that we often struggle to acknowledge. By drawing on the ancient idea of transformation, modern psychology offers a pathway to healing that feels both timeless and deeply personal. It's a reminder that the wisdom of the past can still illuminate the complexities of the human mind. But the influence of ancient mysticism isn't confined to the realm of psychology. In environmental science, the principles of alchemy are being reinterpreted in innovative ways to address some of the most pressing issues of our time. The alchemist's dream of transmutation, turning one substance into another, has found a modern parallel in the development of sustainable technologies. Scientists are now exploring ways to transform waste materials into valuable resources, much like the alchemists sought to turn lead into gold. The idea of creating something precious from the discarded or overlooked speaks to a deeper truth. That transformation is not just about changing the external world, but about seeing potential where others see only waste. The resurgence of interest in alchemy as a metaphor for transformation extends beyond science and psychology. In contemporary spirituality, rituals and symbols once confined to royal courts are being embraced as tools for personal empowerment and connection. The act of lighting a candle, for example, can be more than a simple gesture. It can serve as a reminder of our inner light and resilience. Similarly, the use of talismans or crystals, often dismissed as mere superstition, can provide a tangible focus for intention and reflection. These practices, once reserved for the elite, are now accessible to anyone seeking a deeper sense of meaning and purpose. Yet, as we reinterpret these ancient traditions, there's a growing awareness of the importance of preserving their original wisdom. The rituals, symbols, and philosophies of magic and alchemy are part of a rich cultural heritage, one that offers profound insights into the human experience. By studying these traditions with respect and care, we can ensure that their lessons are not lost to history. At the same time, we're reminded that preservation doesn't mean stagnation. Just as the alchemist sought to transform lead into gold, we have the opportunity to transform these ancient practices into tools for a brighter, more connected future. The enduring relevance of magic and alchemy lies in their ability to bridge the gap between the material and the spiritual, the ancient and the modern. They remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is not just about understanding the world as it is, but about imagining what it could be. Whether through the lens of psychology, environmental science, or personal growth, these traditions invite us to explore the transformative power of curiosity, creativity, and connection. And as we continue to draw inspiration from the past, we're reminded that the greatest alchemy of all is the one that happens within us, the ongoing journey of turning the ordinary into the extraordinary, one step at a time. As the centuries have passed, the mystical traditions of royal courts haven't simply vanished. They've been carefully preserved, studied, and celebrated by those who recognize their profound cultural and historical value. Today, museums, scholars, and enthusiasts around the world are working tirelessly to protect the fragile remnants of this once secretive world. Ancient alchemical manuscripts, astrological charts, and ritual artifacts are now housed in glass cases and digital archives, their pages and symbols painstakingly restored and translated. These efforts aren't just about preserving the past, they're about ensuring that the wisdom of the ages remains accessible to future generations. Take, for example, the British Library in London, home to some of the most significant alchemical texts in history. Here, manuscripts like the Ripley Scroll, a richly illustrated guide to the alchemical process, are carefully preserved, their vivid imagery and cryptic symbols offering a window into the minds of medieval alchemists. Similarly, the Louvre in Paris boasts a collection of astrological instruments and talismans once used by court magicians, each piece a testament to the intricate relationship between art, science, and spirituality. These institutions don't just display these treasures, they actively work to decode their meanings, collaborating with historians, linguists, and scientists to unravel the mysteries they hold. But it's not just large institutions that are keeping these traditions alive. Independent scholars and passionate enthusiasts play a crucial role in uncovering forgotten texts and reviving ancient practices. Online communities dedicated to alchemy and magic share knowledge, debate theories, and even recreate historical experiments, breathing new life into centuries-old techniques. From YouTube channels exploring the symbolism of the philosophers stone to small museums showcasing rare artifacts, the digital age has made it easier than ever to explore these ancient traditions. For those curious about the mystical arts, there's never been a better time to dive in and discover the wealth of resources available. Yet, even with all the progress made in preserving and studying these traditions, mysteries remain. Many ancient texts are still untranslated, their cryptic language and obscure references defying even the most dedicated scholars. Artifacts sit in storage, their purposes and meanings lost to time. The Emerald Tablet, for instance, continues to spark debate. Does its famous maxim, "as above, so below," hold the key to a deeper understanding of the universe, or is it a poetic metaphor for the interconnectedness of all things? These unanswered questions remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is never truly complete. There's always more to uncover, more to learn, and more to wonder about. This sense of mystery is part of what makes these traditions so enduring. They invite us to explore, to question, and to imagine. Whether you're a seasoned scholar or a casual enthusiast, the world of royal magic and alchemy offers endless opportunities for discovery. So why not visit a museum, pick up a book, or join an online community? You might just find yourself drawn into a story that's as fascinating as it is timeless. And as we turn our attention to the questions that still linger, we're reminded that the greatest mysteries are often the ones that keep us searching, long after the answers seem out of reach. Even as we uncover more about the mystical practices of ancient royal courts, some mysteries remain stubbornly unsolved, their secrets locked away in cryptic symbols, lost texts, and unexplained phenomena. These enigmatic puzzles are more than just historical curiosities, they're invitations to explore, to wonder, and to imagine. What do these symbols mean? What secrets were hidden in the pages of texts now lost to time? And what strange phenomena, once attributed to magic, might we one day explain through science or discover anew? These unanswered questions are the threads that keep the tapestry of royal magic and alchemy alive, drawing us deeper into its mysteries. Take, for example, the Voynich Manuscript, a bizarre and beautiful book filled with strange illustrations and an undeciphered script. Discovered in the early 20th century, this medieval text has baffled cryptographers, linguists, and historians for decades. Is it an alchemical manual, a herbal guide, or something else entirely? While theories abound, the manuscript's true purpose remains elusive. Its pages a tantalizing glimpse into a world of knowledge we've yet to fully understand. Similarly, the Emerald Tablet, attributed to the legendary Hermes Trismegistus, continues to spark debate. Its cryptic maxim, "as above, so below," has been interpreted in countless ways, yet its full meaning remains just out of reach. These texts remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is as much about the questions we ask as the answers we find. Then there are the symbols, intricate, evocative, and often open to interpretation. From the alchemical glyphs that adorn ancient manuscripts to the astrological charts that guided royal decisions, these symbols are a language unto themselves. But without a Rosetta Stone to decode them, their meanings are often shrouded in mystery. What did the Ouroboros, the serpent eating its own tail, truly represent to the alchemists who drew it? Was it a symbol of eternal renewal, or did it hold a deeper, more personal significance? These symbols are more than just artistic flourishes. They're windows into the minds of those who crafted them, offering glimpses of their worldview and their aspirations. And what of the unexplained phenomena that once seemed like magic? From the oracles of ancient Greece to the alchemical experiments that produced substances like Greek fire, many practices of the past defy easy explanation. Were these feats the result of advanced knowledge now lost, or were they simply the products of human ingenuity and a deep understanding of the natural world? The line between science and magic was often blurred in these courts, and what we might dismiss as superstition could hold kernels of truth waiting to be rediscovered. What makes these mysteries so compelling is their ability to inspire. They remind us that history is not a static collection of facts, but a living, evolving narrative. Every unanswered question is an opportunity for discovery, a chance to connect with the past in new and meaningful ways, and in this sense, storytelling plays a vital role. Whether through books, films, or even YouTube videos, stories keep these traditions alive, transforming ancient symbols and rituals into something tangible and relatable. They allow us to step into the shoes of those who came before us, to imagine what it might have been like to wield the power of the Philosopher's Stone or to consult the stars for guidance. The allure of these mysteries lies not just in their potential answers, but in the questions they provoke. They challenge us to think creatively, to explore the boundaries of what we know, and to embrace the unknown. In doing so, they remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is a journey, one that is as much about wonder as it is about understanding. And as we continue to delve into the secrets of royal magic and alchemy, we're reminded that the greatest discoveries often begin with a simple question: what if? Myths and legends have always been more than just stories. They're the lifeblood of history, shaping how we understand the past and its mysteries. In the realm of royal magic and alchemy, these tales have taken on a life of their own, weaving together fact and fiction in ways that captivate the imagination. From cursed treasures guarded by ancient spells to rulers who sought immortality through alchemical elixirs, these stories have passed down through generations, carried by oral traditions, literature, and now modern media. But what is it about these myths that continues to enthrall us, and how do they shape our perception of the past? Long before books or films, oral traditions were the primary way these stories were preserved. Picture a medieval storyteller seated by a roaring fire, recounting tales of kings who communed with the gods or alchemists who brewed potions to cheat death. These stories weren't just entertainment, they were a way to make sense of the world. They explained the unexplainable, offering moral lessons and cultural values wrapped in the guise of magic and wonder. The legend of King Arthur and his magical sword Excalibur, for instance, isn't just a tale of heroism, it's a reflection of the ideals of leadership, justice, and divine favor that resonated deeply with medieval audiences. As societies evolved, so did the mediums through which these stories were told. Literature became a powerful tool for preserving and reimagining myths. Works like the Canterbury Tales or the Arabian Nights brought the mystical practices of royal courts to life, blending historical elements with fantastical embellishments. Even Shakespeare drew on the allure of magic in plays like Macbeth, where witches prophesy a king's rise and fall, reminding audiences of the thin line between ambition and hubris. These stories, though fictional, often contained kernels of truth, offering glimpses into the beliefs and fears of their time. In the modern era, media has taken this tradition to new heights. Films, television shows, and video games have transformed ancient myths into global phenomena. Think of the cursed treasure in Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark, or the immortal alchemist in Fullmetal Alchemist. These narratives tap into the same timeless themes that captivated our ancestors: the quest for power, the fear of the unknown, and the hope of transcending human limitations. They remind us that the allure of magic and alchemy isn't confined to the past. It's a living, breathing part of our cultural consciousness. But while these stories are undeniably compelling, they also come with a caveat. The line between myth and history can sometimes blur, leading to misconceptions or romanticized views of the past. Take the legend of the Philosopher's Stone, for example. While it's often portrayed as a literal object that grants immortality or turns lead into gold, its true significance lies in its symbolism, a metaphor for personal transformation and spiritual enlightenment. Similarly, tales of cursed treasures or immortal rulers often overshadow the real historical figures and events that inspired them. This is where critical thinking becomes essential. Engaging with these stories requires a balance of wonder and skepticism. It's about appreciating their beauty and cultural significance while also questioning their origins and meanings. Why were these stories created? What do they reveal about the societies that told them? And how can we separate fact from fiction without losing the magic that makes them so captivating? These questions don't diminish the power of myth. They deepen our understanding of it, allowing us to explore the past with both curiosity and clarity. The enduring appeal of myths and legends about royal magic and alchemy lies in their ability to connect us to something larger than ourselves. They remind us of the universal human desire to understand the mysteries of existence, to seek out the extraordinary in the ordinary, and to find meaning in the chaos of life. Whether through a medieval ballad, a Shakespearean play, or a blockbuster film, these stories continue to inspire, challenge, and enchant us. And as we delve deeper into their mysteries, we're reminded that the greatest magic of all is the power of storytelling itself, the ability to transport us to other worlds, other times, and other ways of seeing the universe. As we journey through the fascinating world of royal magic and alchemy, it's important to pause and ask ourselves, how do we separate the threads of fact from the tapestry of fiction? The stories and practices we've explored are undeniably captivating, but they also require a critical eye. History is often layered with myth, embellishment, and cultural interpretation, and the study of these mystical traditions is no exception. To truly understand their significance, we need to approach them with both curiosity and skepticism, balancing our wonder with thoughtful inquiry. One of the challenges in studying royal magic and alchemy is the way these practices have been romanticized over time. Legends of immortal kings and enchanted artifacts can overshadow the more nuanced realities of their historical context. For example, while the Philosopher's Stone is often portrayed as a literal object capable of granting eternal life, its true value lies in its symbolism, a metaphor for the human quest for spiritual and intellectual transformation. By recognizing this distinction, we can appreciate the deeper philosophical and cultural meanings behind these traditions without losing sight of their historical roots. Context is key. The beliefs and practices of ancient and medieval courts were shaped by the worldviews of their time, worldviews that often blended science, religion, and mysticism in ways that might seem strange to us today. Astrology, for instance, wasn't just a superstition. It was a sophisticated system of knowledge that reflected the interconnectedness of the cosmos. Similarly, alchemy wasn't merely about turning lead into gold. It was a profound exploration of the natural world and humanity's place within it. Understanding this context allows us to see these practices not as primitive or irrational, but as meaningful attempts to make sense of a complex and often mysterious universe. At the same time, it's essential to approach these traditions with a healthy dose of skepticism. Not every legend holds up under scrutiny, and not every claim made by court magicians or alchemists was grounded in reality. The line between genuine knowledge and deliberate deception could be blurry, especially in a world where power and prestige often depended on the perception of divine favor or supernatural insight. By questioning the sources, examining the evidence, and considering alternative explanations, we can uncover a clearer picture of what these practices truly were and what they were not. This balance of curiosity and critical thinking is what makes the study of historical mysteries so rewarding. It invites us to explore the unknown while challenging us to think deeply about the stories we tell and the truths we seek. It's a reminder that history isn't just a collection of facts. It's a dynamic conversation between the past and the present, one that requires us to engage with open minds and thoughtful questions. As we reflect on the legacy of royal magic and alchemy, we're reminded that these traditions are more than just relics of the past, they're windows into the human experience. They reveal our timeless desire to understand the world, to connect with something greater than ourselves, and to transform both the material and the spiritual. Whether seen as science, art, or something in between, these practices continue to inspire and challenge us, offering lessons that resonate across the centuries. And as we turn to the final reflections on this topic, we're invited to consider how these ancient mysteries still shape our understanding of power, knowledge, and the enduring quest for meaning. As we bring our journey through the mystical forces of ancient royal courts to a close, It's impossible not to marvel at the profound impact these practices had on history. Magic and alchemy weren't just curiosities or superstitions. They were tools of power, symbols of divine authority, and pathways to understanding the unseen forces that shaped the world. From the astrologers who guided kings in battle to the alchemists who sought the secrets of eternal life, these traditions reveal a universal human desire, the quest to transcend our limitations and connect with something greater than ourselves. What makes these practices so enduringly fascinating is their ability to bridge the gap between the material and the mystical. Whether through the intricate rituals of court magicians or the symbolic language of alchemical texts, they remind us that the pursuit of knowledge is as much about wonder as it is about understanding. These weren't just pursuits of power, they were acts of imagination, creativity, and hope. They show us that even in the most practical of endeavors, there's always room for mystery and awe. And yet, their relevance doesn't end with the past. Today, the echoes of these ancient traditions can be found in our modern world, in the way we seek meaning through science, art, and spirituality. The philosopher's stone, once a literal goal, has become a metaphor for personal growth and transformation. Astrology, though no longer a tool of statecraft, continues to captivate millions as a way to navigate life's uncertainties. Even the rituals and symbols of old have found new life in contemporary practices, reminding us that the human need for connection and understanding is timeless. But perhaps the greatest lesson we can take from these ancient practices is the importance of balance. The rulers and advisors of old understood that power, whether mystical or material, comes with responsibility. They sought not just to control the world around them, but to harmonize with it, to align their actions with the rhythms of the cosmos and the wisdom of the divine. In a world that often feels divided and chaotic, this pursuit of balance feels more relevant than ever. As we reflect on the legacy of royal magic and alchemy, we're left with a question: what does it mean to seek knowledge in a world full of mysteries? Is it about uncovering the truth, or is it about embracing the questions that keep us curious and alive? The answer, perhaps, lies in the journey itself, in the stories we tell, the connections we make, and the wonder we find along the way. So, what do you think? How do these ancient practices resonate with you? Have they sparked new questions or ideas about the world around us? Share your thoughts in the comments below. We'd love to hear your perspective. And if you've enjoyed this exploration into the mysteries of history, don't forget to subscribe for more content that dives deep into the fascinating, the unexplained, and the extraordinary. Until next time, keep wondering, keep exploring, and remember, the greatest mysteries are often the ones that inspire us to look a little closer.